Okay, so handling dad being very obtuse and oppressive with his advice and opinions, even though it's never worked for you. Cool. So let's straight away. I get a good sense of this issue. Like us living in the Czech Republic, I just see this all the time. Like the culture here is parents tell their kids what to do, no matter the age. Right. I got like a 70-year-old grandmother telling her 50-year-old kids how to live right now. Like I'm seeing that every
Mm.
single day. And one of the things I've noticed in my work as a coach, there's nothing harder to deal with than family. Really, I can build someone up to be a confident as motherfucker who confronts anybody, but you put them in their home environment and they dial all the way back to zero. It's mind blowing. I've seen people who I've trained to be coaches who teach others how to be assertive still fall apart in the presence of their family. Okay. So one of the first things I want to get across to you is how fucking normal this struggle is. All right. This is not the sign of a weakness. This is somebody put it, oh God, I'll never remember who quoted this. But the reason your family can push your buttons is because they created them.
Mm.
Something like that. And I was like, yep, that's pretty much bang on the money. So I want to start straight away, right at the end, and get straight to the heart of this problem, which is you say you want to know how to handle this relationship. What do you mean by handle this relationship?
Okay, I'll give you some. You probably know some of the background. I'm the eldest son in the family. I was born when my dad was 26, so he basically raised me uh, and influenced me a lot. And not just with religious thinking, because he's a hardcore Christian, very fanatic about it, but also with his mindset and beliefs about a lot of things in life. And I followed that advice consciously and unconsciously up until 35, when I left the country and I moved to New Zealand and I started waking up and I stumbled upon Brojo and gained more awareness about myself. And slowly over the last nearly 3 years, I've become more and more aware, and I started identifying a lot of thinking patterns and belief systems that I acquired from my dad and that he had been hammering on me for many, many years. And the more aware I become, the more I reject those ideas and beliefs. And the relationships come to a point now where I'm super aware of a lot of things now. And I keep on rejecting his ideas and beliefs and opinions and all that stuff. But the more I find out about how he wired me, the more resentment it grows in me and more anger. And he keeps on doing it. And about 3 to 4 months ago, my parents came to visit me. And we had a conversation at the end of the trip about I wanted him to stop preaching to me, sending me daily devotionals, religious text messages on WhatsApp, talking to me about God, Christianity. I told him I'm not a Christian anymore. I'm not a religious person anymore. I don't want you to keep on hammering this on me. Since then, he did it 2 or 3 times. I had to stop him again. He said, remember what we talked about? This is about respect. You wouldn't want me to talk to you about Buddhism every day if I was a Buddhist, so please stop it. But it's not just with religion. Now it's with the job I should get, it's the girl I should date. It's about a lot of things. And I'm fed up of it. I'm fed up. Like, I don't want to hear about it. And the more I hear about it, the more I reject it, and it causes me some emotional turmoil, I would say. So that's the first part. The second part is that I owe him money, and he's loaned money to me over the last 3 years so I can sustain myself in those periods where I have been jobless. So a part of me feels like, okay, because you owe him money, you should still have him in your life and respect him because he's helping you finance this whole journey. And that's a tricky part where a part of me says, well, you don't need him anymore in your life. Why do you still? But the other part says, well, it's your dad. He's helping you financially, and you shouldn't kind of cut him off of your life. So that's the whole situation.
Okay. a few points are coming up, but I want to try and I'm going to try shoot for something. And if I miss, then that's fine. Okay. But I
Mm.
just want to cut straight to the core of this thing. I want you to answer this question as honestly as you can. With regards to the situation, who do you resent more, him or yourself?
It dwindles. It goes. Yeah, it's sometimes me because I followed his advice and I believed in him, and but I already tried all the things all these tricks and teachings, and it didn't work for my life. So first, yes, it goes. It's me, but at the same time, it's a resentment towards him because he taught me a lot of things that didn't work in my life. So yeah, it goes back and forth between myself and him.
I'll put it there now just to plant the seed. The resentment towards yourself is, in my opinion, the real source of pain here. For one reason, he's not forcing you to do anything. He can nag, he can annoy, you owe him money, but he doesn't actually legally leverage that in any way. You feel forced, but that's not the same as actually being forced. That feeling of pressure is generated by your own mind, not generated by him. Here's a question I want you to answer, again, as honestly as you can. Do you think he did the best he could?
Yep, his intention has always been to help us, but I've already analyzed him as a person, and he's coming from a place of ignorance, fear, and insecurity. And you can, I mean, now I understand why his methods and a lot of things didn't work in my life because it's coming out of fear and insecurity and ignorance. So he did the best he could do with what he got. Yes, but from that place I already mentioned. So that's why I don't have people like him in my life. I don't because I was there and I'm not. It's my dad. I have to accept that he's my dad, but sort of I won't. I don't like his influence in my life anymore. And you mentioned it. It's probably he's not forcing it or obligating me to do stuff, but I still feel like I have him here, like either by email, text message, sometimes calls, trying to influence me. Either I told you about jobs, women,
Mm-hmm.
faith, yeah. So
You ever feel his influence when there's no evidence of him, like no text, no emails, no presence in the room, and you still feel the pressure?
I used to. Now when he's not, when there's period, I don't miss his absence. When he's absent, I don't miss him. But when he's present in my life on a every other day or weekly basis, it's naggy. It feels like a naggy. It feels like a pressure. It feels like I have to, because I early on in my life I was pleasing him. My dad was my idol when I was younger, a child. So I was. That's where I became. That's why I became a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it all started.
There's a key element missing here: responsibility. He didn't make himself your idol. You made him your idol. He didn't force you to try and please him. You chose to. And it's very hard for you to take responsibility for that. And I know that you're not because of the resentment. If you took full responsibility for every decision you've ever made in your life, including the ones you're going to make from here on out, then there's going to be no blame or resentment towards him. In fact, that's a great measurement. You'll know that you've taken full responsibility when you fully accept him and feel no resentment at his attempts to help you.
And that's a big step forward, because I'm in the midst of kind of the resentment towards him, realizing the more aware I become, the more I realize how he contributed to wiring me. I'm not blaming him 100% for all the things that I've gone through life, but there's a big part of, and now that I'm aware how he influences me with his messages, I pick it up, okay, that's what he used to do 20 years ago, and that I believed him back then. So,
Well, that's the
uh,
key. If you know he's wrong now, then you really can't blame him for any of your current or future decisions, because now you're enlightened.
mm,
Like I said, I want to sort of just place that marker. I honestly think I call responsibility the father of all values, because if you can live by that one, then all the others just fall into line. And the opposite being true, if you don't live by that one, you really can't live by many of the others, at least not well. It's very hard to be courageous if you don't own your fear, for example. You have to own everything about yourself to really have a shot at making the most out of life. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't influence you. And I'm not saying that you knew better. You didn't. What I'm saying is you now do. And also, what I'm saying is no matter how much he influenced you, the call was always yours to make. And you made it.
yeah,
Whether you were consciously aware of how you were doing that or not, it was still your brain making the decision, your body moving, doing the people pleasing.
mm,
You weren't a puppet on a string here.
yeah,
But that means that he can't be blamed for anything that's happening in your life. And that's where there tends to be a reluctance. Because if I can't blame him, then all this shit I got to deal with is mine. It's a very
mm,
kind of uncomfortable place to go. You know, I hate going there.
yeah,
On a weekly basis, I'm trying to blame my wife for something, because it's like a load off. I'm like, see, I don't have to run my whole life. And then I remember actually I do. I want to ask you this question. I want to imagine you saw someone walking down the street who was clearly mentally disabled, severely, right? Somebody whose brain clearly doesn't function. I don't know, maybe they're wearing a helmet, they're talking gibberish, drooling, it's just very, very obvious that they've got something going on. Would you blame them if you saw them then struggle to tie their own shoelaces?
mm,
Of course they struggle, right?
mm,
And yet your dad, with all his fear and all his ignorance and everything else, you blame him for struggling with fatherhood,
mm,
struggling with giving supportive, loving help. I'm not saying to pity your father, but it might help to see him as basically kind of disabled.
mm,
Whatever he's got going on in his mind severely limits his ability to father in a helpful way.
mm.
But he's trying his best. What happens though is when he tries, you tell yourself a little story. It's not he's trying his best and he doesn't know what he's doing. It's he's trying to control me. He's ruining my life. He's nagging. You know,
Yeah, and when I hear his opinions of you should do this, you should do that, and trying to sell me Christianity again, and you should date a Christian girl, and you should find this job here. And yeah, my question is, should I keep on setting boundaries firmer? It's like having a call with him because he's overseas, of course. What is the next step here?
like,
Is like to draw a line?
yeah, accepting someone for their flaws doesn't mean tolerating poor behavior. Okay, but it's just clear. It's important to see the difference. Like I used to work with guys in forensic mental health. I remember I had one guy who used to always corner me and tell me about how the FBI were monitoring him with helicopters and stuff. Now I know that's not happening, but while I accept his severe schizophrenic disorder, I don't have to put up with him like draining hours of my time either. right? I can be compassionate and accepting what's going on, but I also got to respect myself, take care of my shit. I'm actually talking about this in my next book. There's a thing I call an acceptance agreement, which is I outline what it means to behave in a way that is accepting towards me. And this is, in my opinion, or so far, it's the best thing I've come up with for dealing with difficult family members who you aren't willing to cut out of your life. Basically, you make it up to them. They get to decide how long the phone call is, how long the visit is. They end it by doing any of the behaviors that piss you off. That's their way of saying this conversation is over. Now, it doesn't mean I'm never going to talk to you again. It means it's over today. It means I'm walking away from you now. I'm putting the phone down now. We talked about this. I told you that this would be a deal breaker. I'll call you again next week. A very calm, compassionate approach to just, this is the amount of tolerance I have for each interaction. It ends when you start doing this. Now, of course, you have to lay this out for them. Like when you start pressuring me on how to live and blah, 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 I'm going to end the conversation. That doesn't mean I don't love you. It's just I don't want to hear any more of this. Okay? And I'll have to call you again later once I'm over it. This is really ruthless to say, but this is exactly the same process as training a dog. Okay? Reward and punishment. It's very basic. If they treat you in an accepting, tolerant way, they get all your love and attention and compassion, they get you. If they choose not to do that, then they're choosing to end the interaction. The thing is, the power's in their hands. You're like, look, I'm going to call you every Saturday, good little son that I am, and the conversation will go until you start pressuring me to date a Christian girl. And then when you say that, I'm going to take that as you saying you don't want to talk anymore. Because it means I don't want to talk anymore.
Perfect.
But this is more just the very practical step. The deeper stuff is where you need to sit down, look at everything in your life, and ask yourself, how did I choose this for myself? We're all influenced. I've got bits of my father and me and everybody else I've ever met. Every single one of you has changed me a little bit. That I can't prevent from happening. But the next words to come out of my mouth, nobody else is saying them. Nobody else is writing them or choosing them. That's all me. It doesn't actually matter where the influence comes from because I am the vehicle delivering it. I can choose not to. I could hang up this call right now. I'm not going to, just so you know. But I could, right? So because I'm not going to, I have to own everything that happens on this call. I had the option to leave. I chose to stay. Therefore, this call's all on me. What I want you to notice is that tiny, tiny fucking millimeter between what happens to you and how you respond. There's this little window. I call it the reaction gap, where usually a small range of options are available to you. Depending on how emotional you are, the more emotional you are, the lower the range. A range of options of how you can respond. And what I want you to notice over the next week is you choosing the response. You don't always have a lot of options. Sometimes you got two max. But there's an okay one and a shitty one. If you choose the shitty one, who can you blame for that if you knew that the okay one was available? Now, the okay one was a bit more uncomfortable, a bit more difficult to do, but it was better for you. So if you choose the shitty one, that's on you. It's about taking that power back.
Yeah.
We won't go too much deeper into it today. What I'd say is the answer to your original question is the acceptance agreement. Sitting down and going, look, this is what will end a conversation with me. It doesn't end our relationship, but this is where I'll put the brakes on for my own mental health. You can even say to them, look, I know you can't change. This is you trying your best to be a father. You know, I'm not going to try and stop you being you, but I'm going to limit what I'm going to put up with. You do whatever you want. Just so you know, if I say, okay, I'm going now, that'll be why. And you can decide whether or not you want that. You're putting the choice in their hands. You want me? fine. You play by the rules. If not, that's fine too. But there are consequences.
Good.
That'll at least help you deal with the resentment towards yourself for tolerating this.
Yeah.
Okay. You can get creative. Weekly blocks on WhatsApp. Every time he recommends that you date a girl, he gets blocked for a week. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
Just this thing where you like, look, I always have control of the information. You know, if I don't like the information, I cut off the flow. This isn't really for him. You're not going to change him much. Okay, he's an old guy set in his ways, run by fear and ignorance. If you're right about that, he's not going to make some magical transformation overnight, but he might moderate the pressure so he gets to spend time with his son. He might be up for that, especially when he sees, hey, I can't actually ruin this. He's still going to be there. He's just not going to put up with everything.
Yeah.
See how you go with that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we've got time.